friends, number 7 on Thursday night's homework. We're going to write a story problem about these 7 feet of rope. So we're given a picture and we have to write a story problem that matches it. So let's see, what do we know? We know that the whole rope must be 7 feet because we always label our hole, and our hole is 7 feet of rope. Well, what are we breaking our hole into? Well, right here, I see a half and a half and a half. So I think that we're breaking it into halves. And then the question mark indicates the question we're asking. Well, it wants to know how many halves. How many halves are in what? Well, how many halves are in our hole? How many halves are in 7? So we could write any sort of problem about this rope. I'm just going to say, Mrs. Leinenbach, that's me. Mrs. Leinenbach is using 7 feet of rope for a craft project. We'll pretend I'm crafty. Okay, using 7 feet of rope for a craft project. Each craft, nope, let's not do that. Let's say she will cut her rope into halves. How many halves will she have to make her crafts with? You could do anything, but the point is we're starting with 7 feet of rope, we're cutting it into halves, and we want to know how many halves. You can be as creative as you want, but it doesn't really need to be that complicated. It can be really simple. It can be Miss Johnson has 7 feet of rope. She cut it into halves. How many halves does she have? Or you can get a little bit more fancy than I did even. It's up to you. You have the creativity, the creative license here. And then let's solve it. Let's not just leave this unsolved. So what we're doing is we're doing 7 divided by a half, right? So our answer we know is going to be a whole number because we're starting with a whole number. How many halves would fit into 7? Well, we could draw a picture to find out. I could have, there's 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 holes, 4 holes, and so on. I'm running out of space, and we could count how many holes are, or how many halves are in 7, which would be 14, or I can know 7 times 2 is 14. Another way of thinking of this is when we're dividing by a fraction, just say 7 is a half of what number? Well, 7 is a half of 14. And if we checked it, we would do 14 times a half, which is a half of 14, which is 7. So it all checks out. If we wrote our answer, for my problem, it would be Mrs. Leinenbach will have 14 halves of rope to work with. There you go.